Hey friends, this is Rob Smith with Context, and I'm back to walk you through a personal development plan. Uh, let's get started. So I'm on the Context main page, and as usual, we'll create a framework. There are different ways you could actually do this. Um, as most things, I could actually create a project and do it as a full-on, quite large-scale project around my personal development. I'm actually going to hold that to a coming tutorial because that's going to be a longer, in-depth process. But basically, all the frameworks that we create here could apply to what you do inside that project. So let's do a personal development plan. Let's say that we're going to do it for a mid-level manager that wants to work on emotional intelligence. So it's kind of a executive coaching kind of situation. It could be for myself, or it could be for a client. It could be for a friend, what have you. I'm going to go to the personal and leader development framework category, and let's go to personal growth path. Go to personal growth path. Just to save you from all the typing, I've put in the context already. Growth path for a mid-level manager aiming to master emotional intelligence to become an exceptional leader, focusing on self-awareness, empathy, and relationship management in a high-pressure corporate environment. Now, remember, when you put in context, and really the reason why we called it context to begin with is that as people are coming to realize AI works on context or really not at all very well. Like context is really important. And that's not surprising. The human brain works on context as well. So the more detail we give it, the more it can help us with input or whatever mental model and framework we're applying can be more articulate that way. You can do as little as a few words and kind of just start from there. Or sometimes when I'm doing a context, I'll put in as long as 1 or 2 pages, or I'll actually upload a document, which is another tutorial that I'll show you. But yeah, upload a document and have it base it on that context. So it can be short or long, but just remember that obviously the more context you give it, the more it can work from your exact specifics. On this personal growth path, I'll pick phases because I want to put it into a set of phases, and it will now generate an outline of what that roadmap could look like. All right, and there we have it. We have phase one, self-awareness. In phase one, it recommends to learn to identify emotional triggers. It's starting at the right place, right? Awareness is liberating. So learning to identify emotional triggers if we're trying to develop EQ is really critical. So right here, what I'll do, just to show you a few other features that you may not have played with, is I'll set a tag there. And I'll say, okay, that's a key insight. That's a key insight. Regular self-check-ins. It's implementing a practice of regular checking in with your emotions throughout the day, understanding emotional strengths and weaknesses. Conduct a straightforward self-assessment to evaluate emotional strengths and weaknesses in various scenarios. So with this one, I ask myself, I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat, but how might I do that? So what I'll do is I'll immediately nest a new framework here, and I'll actually do a couple of things. And as I've said to you many times, like there's no wrong answer with context. You got to play with things a little bit. But the first one I'll do is I will do practical guidance, and I'll put that into quadrants because I want to see it. And you'll notice it pulled the context directly from the top level lens. So I didn't have to type anything. And here we are. So here's my nested lens. This one is now nested underneath my top level lens that I started with. It's in quadrants and it's understanding emotional strengths and weaknesses because that was the part of the top level lens that I was in. I asked it for practical guidance and I put it into this lens shape, 4 quadrants. So it's telling me to, in the upper left quadrant, practice mindfulness. Start a daily mindfulness routine, such as meditation or deep breathing, to become more aware of your emotions, how they affect your thoughts and actions. So I kind of like that. And maybe I'll say, mark that with a to do. Emotional journaling. I could seek a mentor, identify triggers, do some visualizations. In the upper right, I could use mood tracking apps or do stress relief, so on and so forth. In the lower left, it's giving me things around culture, storytelling, and some relational stuff. And then in the lower right, other things, performance metrics, if there's feedback systems that I might be able to develop, etc. In any one of these things, if I decided that, they're relevant, then I could keep it. I could bold it, italicize it, make notes about it right here inside the app, or I could delete it or whatever. Some frameworks, just to say it, I mean, some frameworks you use in 3 minutes, you get the answer you want. You never look at that framework again. Other frameworks really become the beginning of a long-term inquiry, or they become something that really is kind of a lens that you really are thinking about and using on a more active basis. And you might use it for months. And the more you work with that framework or add new frameworks to it, the more it becomes a tool that's reflective of the richness of your own thinking around that topic. It can be really powerful that way. No right or wrong answer about how to use it. But you can see that if I click up, I'm now back to my top level lens, and that lens that I nested is right there underneath that. So that was a practical guidance lens that we nested. Let's say instead I want to say, okay, explain it. Just explain it to me. And we'll throw that into a table in terms of how to explain it. So it breaks it up into, I'm kind of going to have it break it into categories, and it's going to decide the categories. Okay, and it's going to explain what understanding emotional strengths and weaknesses really looks like. And here we go. So it gives me 5 different contexts: workplace conflict, public speaking, team collaboration, stress management, decision making under pressure. It gives me various scenarios. It gives me self-assessments about how to think about that, feedback from colleagues, emotional strengths, and emotional weaknesses. So really a lot of information and wisdom on this slide that I could really think about and reflect, decide which one is most priority for me at this time, and really do a little bit of self-coaching around that. Or if I'm a coach, obviously use this to develop some ideas for a client. Now, clearly this is not the only personal growth framework that we have. There are many, and you can really play with them all. Find ones that really fit what you're doing. In a future video, I'll show you how we do that with the recommendation engine and with the if you wanted to create a deeper project out of your personal growth process. Okay, as always, thanks for being here.